Hi everyone, it is Kimber, the study abroad specialist here. And in today's video, we are going to be talking about how to use study abroad to begin improving your career. So study abroad is definitely something that is going to stick out to people when you are applying for internships, for residencies, for externships, volunteer jobs, and of course, for any type of full-time, part-time job. It's definitely going to stand out. I think that I've mentioned this in several different blogs, but it's important to note that even if you decide to study abroad multiple times, like I did, or even if you just do it once, you're still in a very exclusive club. Like I can tell you from an American perspective, it's less than about 10 to so percent of Americans that study abroad in total. And I mean, this is like obviously in normal times. No one's really studying abroad that much right now in June 2021, but hopefully we will be back on track in the next couple of months now. But overall, in total, I think that particular statistic was from 2019. And so that's pretty accurate. I mean, obviously, if you live in a place like Europe or even Canada or, in a different continent, a lot of people who are outside of the United States tend to study abroad more. But the number is still really low compared to what you would think in terms of people actually, whether they're going to be spending a semester abroad or getting a degree abroad. It's a lot smaller than you would think. So you are still within an exclusive club. And so what that means is for building your resume specifically, you have a great opportunity to do this. So whether it is, you're talking about some of the amazing classes that you had a chance to take while you were abroad, you're listing that on your resume. Or maybe you got a chance to explore a new language and dive deeper into that. You're talking about that. Maybe you just picked up a really cool hobby that you feel maybe able to translate into whatever you are applying for, and you want to talk about that. Those are all going to be really important. So I always like to tell students to definitely find a way to be able to write about your study abroad experience somewhere in your cover letter, because as we all know, cover letters often make or break applications. A lot of times people do not read resumes until they get into the interview. I have been in interviews where someone has not even read my resume, but they have read the cover letter. So you definitely want to make sure you can include that somewhere. It doesn't have to be like you don't have to oversell it, but you definitely want to put that in because that's going to pique people's interest for a lot of different reasons. And it doesn't matter where you live, people are still interested in it. They want to hear about that. And so you want to put it definitely in your cover letter. And then on your resume, that's where, like any other type of experience that you have, you want to sort of be very clear about, here's when I went, this is the type of program I did, here's how long I did it for, this is what I did. If you have a specific maybe course range that you kind of succeeded in, or a grade point average, something like that, definitely put that on there as well if that was given to you in the program. Or if you did an international internship, definitely put that as well. And then kind of just list out, as you would with any other job or education opportunity that you've had, what you've actually done, just so that people can see that. Because I can promise you that in any interview, people are going to want to talk about that. I have spent so many interviews that I went on before I started my business, and kind of applying for different jobs and then actually getting those jobs. But like that was like the one thing that in most of the interviews where I was really successful, that we spent a while talking about, because people just wanted to know, like, what did you do? How did you do it? How did you figure this out? And obviously, I mean, everyone is going to vary differently. I have lots of study abroad experience, but even if you're just starting out and you just have one semester, people are going to want to hear about that, because people love talking about travel. People love hearing about people that sort of take an adventure and sort of step out on that limb, because again, as I said, it's not as common as you would think. And then also too, they want to just hear about, what did you do? Because if you were successful, you got some good recommendations from people abroad, it's only going to make it stronger. If you can work abroad, you can work anywhere, as I like to say. So definitely consider that as something that you can put on your resume to help you towards your career path. So for the next point, I think that this is probably pretty self-explanatory, but it's all about being able to use study abroad to expand your professional and your personal network. So that is a huge part of what you should be trying to do when you go to study abroad. And if you have already done it, you should be considering how you're going to continue nurturing those relationships. It's a huge part of it. As we know, even in college, it's a huge deal to sort of build those networks. But I think that the important part is that once you study abroad, you sort of open up this brand new sort of pathway of people that you would have never met anywhere else. Because I think a lot of times, if you're, like, let's say for college example, or, in university, depending on what country you're in, it may be structured a little bit different, but you tend to be around people that are much more similar to you. So if you're in a college or a university, you're probably mostly around people that are from the same country as you. You may be, for example, if you're here in the United States, you may be from around a lot of people that are from the same state as you, even if they grew up in a different town. A lot of the culture is probably a lot of the same. So in some ways, that's obviously good, but it sort of limits your learning capacity in terms of actually learning from other people. And so, for example, in today's world, we hear so much about, diversity and all this stuff. And I won't dive into that now. I think that, yes, in a lot of ways that is important. But there are all different types of diversity. And I think that sort of thinking about that in terms of when you study abroad, you get this exposure to all of these different types of people that are often not from the same culture as you. Sometimes they don't speak the same language. They may have different sort of, kind of day-to-day rituals as you, based on whatever their particular sort of culture norms are. And so I think that it's really important to embrace that. And so part of doing that is sort of finding ways to build up your personal and your professional network while you're abroad. So the sort of professional side, and they sort of blend as well, but the professional side is a little bit easier because you traveled abroad for a reason. So maybe you are studying abroad, specifically like taking specific courses. Maybe you are doing an internship abroad. Maybe you're doing a mix, of study and internship. Maybe you are doing some type of volunteer program. That's really kind of easy because you're going to get to interface with, people who are going to be your supervisors, people who are going to be maybe just basically advising you on different things, people who are going to be your colleagues as well. Those are your professional sort of cohorts that you get to develop, as well as any type of professors that you have and anything like that. Those are people that are in your professional network, hopefully forever. And then with the personal side of it, which again, sometimes, personal life bleeds into professional life, but on the personal side of it, it's mostly going to come from, the people that you live with, if you're living with people, or maybe if you're part of a program, a specific study abroad program, the people that you travel there with, or the people that you will meet while you're there. And then also to any type of local relationships that you create. That's why I always encourage people to, get involved with a local club when you study abroad, or, just try and find ways to connect with people that actually live in the city that you're going to, or the country that you're going to, and have those connections as well, because it's only going to just help any type of future opportunities that you want. And again, it's not, I think that a lot of times when people talk about networking and all these different things, I know that it can be really intimidating. In some ways I feel the same, because it often feels not genuine. So it's like, you're like, well, how do I network? Do I just go to a party and sort of pass around business cards, or what do I do? I feel that a lot of that is sort of wasted time, in my opinion. I don't like doing things like that. I feel that it's more or less like building strong networks based on nurturing those things. So it's you want to focus on, for example, and I will be completely honest, I need to continue being better at this. I've grown in this area, but you want to make sure that you're just, reach out to, let's say, your former professors and just say hello. Reach out to former supervisors and just say hello. This is not just in a study abroad context, but you want to make sure that you're doing that, whether it be from your study abroad contacts, or from, just your regular kind of general context, to sort of nurture that. It's going to be really important, because you never know when an opportunity is going to come up, and then if you need a recommendation or a reference, or just someone to sort of, pitch in and say something good about you, you don't want to kind of strike them at the 11th hour after not talking to them for 20 years. And I know obviously most of the people that, come to my channel, and most of the people that I advise and that are part of the Live Study Learn Abroad Association are, like in their late teens or their 20s or something. So you don't have that much experience to sort of pull from. But even if it's something where you just kind of did volunteer work, you definitely want to, sort of pull that in and keep those references close and just keep nurturing those relationships throughout time, and just look at it as much more of a relationship, a partnership, that you just want to keep in touch with people, not just a transactional thing of they were my professor, or they were my supervisor and now I'm done with that particular role, I've moved on. You want to try and nurture and keep those relationships going as much as you can if they were good. If it was not the best, I don't recommend doing that. I definitely am not someone who, I feel that, if the person you feel is not going to give you a good reference or something, definitely do not reach out to them. I personally do not believe in that. I think a lot of people still kind of are on the old bandwagon with that, where it's like, well, even if they weren't the best person and they may give me a bad recommendation, I'm still going to reach out to them. I would not recommend you do that. But overall, most interactions and most relationships are built on, sort of a good, solid foundation, particularly within the professional realm. So definitely consider keeping those strong. So, kind of segueing into my next point, which I sort of mentioned in the last point, but particularly with your references and your recommendations, you want to sort of cultivate those early on. And again, they evolve as you grow in your career. But I think with study abroad, it's really important because those can often kind of, maybe not, I don't want to say make or break an opportunity for you, but it brings in a different perspective. So let's say that you're applying for a summer internship, you studied abroad. Let's, for all intents and purposes, pretend like, we are in 2019. And so we are in summer 2019. And so, back in 2018, at the end of 2018, you studied abroad and now you're looking for a summer internship. And so, you're trying to gather your references because you've done the application, you're kind of in the final steps of the process. And so, let's say you have a professor that's going to be willing to give you a recommendation who's currently on campus. And then maybe they want someone who, is from a previous, maybe part-time job that you work from. And then they're like, well, give us a third reference. And so what you're going to be able to do is pull out from your hat, like someone that, you worked with abroad. So maybe this was a person that you volunteered with abroad, or maybe it was someone who also supervised you in a role while you were studying abroad. And so they're able to show like, okay, this person did this on top of having to learn a new language, on top of having to sort of get used to a different culture. It's just going to bring a different perspective to it. And again, I think that it ties in nicely. I have seen it done. I've also had it done for myself as well, where it's like you were able to keep, sort of engaging the fact that you have studied abroad, and also too that it just keeps it going, so that, like you've kind of talked about it in your interview, and then when you get to the point where they need the references, they're like, okay, like this is reassuring, like they weren't just talking about it, they actually were a great worker, they were a great volunteer, they were a great intern while they were, studying abroad over in Frankfurt. And it's so great to actually see this on paper. So I definitely think that it's important to, just keep a list of, maybe it doesn't have to be a long list. It could just be like 3 or 4 people. I know I have those people kind of in my mental Rolodex that I sort of call on when I need a specific reference for something that talks about my time abroad. And as I mentioned before, I mean, I have several different times abroad. So I sort of pull from different pools of people. But even if you just spent one semester, even if it was just like a May semester, you just spent like 3 weeks or something, still, you probably have at least one professor or one supervisor or one person that you can think of that, they may be really good to sort of just continue building a relationship with, continue communicating with, because I think that they would say great things for me, come recommendation time, come reference time. And so you definitely want to just sort of consider that and sort of find an opportunity to be able to add that in as a sort of leg up over the competition, who's just going to have basic references as well, but not have anything that talks about study abroad or sort of bringing a new dynamic to any type of job application. Okay, and so that is the end of this video. So I was hoping to kind of keep it a little bit shorter side because, again, as I said, I want to spend some time in future videos sort of diving deeper with more examples to kind of show you like this is how specifically, either myself or people that I have advised have applied study abroad on their resume, in their cover letter, sort of how they've talked through different examples of study abroad when they're in different interviews for different things. So we're definitely going to get into that. I hope very soon. I definitely want to cover that. So if you have not already subscribed, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button. And I want to hear more about, where are you in the process? So obviously, we're not in 2019 anymore, so we're back in 2021, unfortunately. And so I want to hear, like, did you get a chance to study abroad before everything kind of happened within this past year, or are you planning to study abroad in the future once things kind of continue to open up? And where are you planning on going? That is like the number one question I always ask people, because I know that particularly kind of as things have progressed over this past year and a half, people that have wanted to study abroad have sort of changed their idea for a lot of them and decided on a different place. And so let me know in the comments below what your particular plans are. And also to like this video, share this video. I release videos every single Friday, so I will see you in the next one.